Good afternoon, dear viewers. Today I have a special guest, Sigal Kook. Sigal is a friend of Eritrean refugees in Israel. She is also a human rights activist. And today we will be talking about the current situation in Israel. Also, we will be talking about the Eritrean asylum seekers and refugees, especially during this difficult time in Israel, the work they were doing, and other stuff. So welcome, Sigal, to ERISAT.
Thank you so much for having me again. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
Great. So before I start, I would like to introduce Sigal. Sigal Kook Aviv is a social and human rights activist. Aviv was one of the main petitioners to the Israeli Supreme Court in what was ultimately a successful effort to halt the expulsion of asylum seekers in 2018. She continues to work in the field of human rights, working directly with the Israeli refugee and asylum seeking population. In 2018, Cook Aviv won the Leibovitz Prize for her important work with refugee and asylum seekers in Israel. In the past 12 years, Sigal turned all her resources and energy to fight for the moral character of the Israel society, aiming to stop the expulsion of Africans who seek asylum within Israel and following them to stay until they can return to their country safely. She began to teach Hebrew to the refugee, and shortly after, she found herself visiting the Halot facility once a week, immersed in a daily struggle to recognize asylum seekers as a refugee and to improve their lives. After human rights organizations almost gave up on fighting with the government and the High Court of Justice, which authorized the deportation to a third country, Rwanda, Sigal led a petition to the High Court of Justice with another 119 citizens. In March 9, 2018, the High Court ordered the government to freeze the deportation process following the petition. So Sigal has been doing a lot of work, and especially with Eritrean refugees. And one thing that I can witness, I talked to a lot of Eritrean refugees. They were calling her as the mom or the mother of Eritrean refugees. So this is that I can witness while speaking to many Eritrean refugees. So thank you for your service again for Eritreans. So yeah.
Thank you so much. Really, the community is, I keep telling them, they're so dear to me, and I'm honored by the fact that they're calling me the mother of the community. And I'm always telling them, I wish I would. I would be able to protect them as mothers would like to protect, because yes, this is an amazing community.
Yeah. I mean, really, you are doing an amazing job, and everybody that I talk to, they are very, very happy with everything you're doing. So right now in Israel, it's a very difficult time for you and for a lot of Israelis. So I just want to start with the current situation in Israel. How are things right now in Israel? Just give me a brief situation. What's going on right now?
Well, in general, the current situation is very bad. Israel and Israelis are in a state of shock, disbelief, grief. Uh, it's quite difficult at this moment. We're dealing with the option of uh, the army entering Gaza on ground soldiers, and we're very, very worried. We're under missiles attacks from the south to the north. We're hoping that we won't have another the Hezbollah joining the fighting from the north. And we're also dealing with something we have never dealt before, the issue of so many people taken hostage. And, we're a very small society. We're dealing with the deaths of over 1,200 people. And we're also dealing with the fact that, all of us know somebody that was either murdered or is kidnapped. So in general, Israel is in a very difficult situation at the moment. Everything is complete shutdown. Nothing is opening for over a week. Stores are closed. Of course, restaurants. We're in the midst of this crisis.
Yeah. So, I mean, we all been seeing in the news right now. It's a very difficult situation everywhere. So, after the incursion by the Hamas militants, more than 1,200 Israelis were killed. And as a result, the Israeli Prime Minister declared Israel is at war. And following his declaration, the Israeli forces are bombing the Gaza Strip and also ordered a complete siege. It looks like a lot of casualty on both sides. So how did we get here? How did we get here is the question that how did the Israeli intelligence fail to prevent Hamas from attacking Israel to this magnitude? How did this happen? Because people think that like the Israeli intelligence is very capable of preventing attacks like this. So you as an Israeli, what is going on? What do you think about this thing?
So first of all, that's one of the biggest questions the Israeli society is going to have to deal with. How we were all under the impression that the Israeli army and the Israeli intelligence have everything under control, and they have a fence, and everybody who comes even mildly closely to the fence will be I don't know, shot down or shot or whatever. And we were under the impression, even though 50 years ago in the Yom Kippur War, we were surprised the same way. We were now, again, taken by surprise. They are saying now that the Israeli intelligence has received information from the Egyptians a few days prior to this attack.
Mhm.
But either the Israeli government ignored it again, as they did in the Yom Kippur War. And also, if you ask me seriously, I mean, how did we reach this situation? I guess I'm always saying, regarding to the refugee issue around the world, there's no fence high enough or whatever that people can't cross. Eventually people can cross any fence you put in front of them. We know that since the Chinese war with the Chinese wall. We know that a fence is never going to stop somebody who wants to go over it. But the question is, why are we in a political situation where we are keeping people from Gaza, keeping them in an open space prison for so many years? People are not allowed to go into Gaza or come out. Goods are not allowed to go in and out. Gaza is an open prison, and people there are in a very, very difficult situation. We have every year or year and a half, we have attacks on Gaza. Israeli forces attack Gaza, where there are so many casualties. I'm not justifying anything that happened. I'm just saying that a lot of activists, human rights activists, have been calling out for the Israeli government to stop the siege on Gaza, to create a situation where people will not be in such a difficult situation and controlled by the Israelis. And basically, you have to look at that. You have to look at when the Ariel Sharon, Prime Minister, retreated Israelis from Gaza in 2005 and did not negotiate it with Fatah and give the power to Fatah, leaving therefore the emptiness for Hamas to rise and grow. You have to look at all these reasons when you're looking at what we're dealing with today. Again, and it's not to justify anything that happened. I mean, the atrocities and the cruelty. I'm just saying that Israel, in a way, Israel has neglected to deal with this issue on a larger base than just putting fences and security and information. There's issues that are much larger than that. And we failed. We failed, by the way, because we were dealing with the occupation of the Palestinians in the territories, in the occupied territories in this Yudah and Shomron. We moved all our forces to that area on this specific holiday because the settlers there were creating provocations and in the middle of the midst of Palestinian towns doing Jewish celebrations. So we moved most of our army to that area. So we were completely both taken by surprise and not prepared for anything.
So the news right now is there is a ground soldiers may be entering Gaza in the coming days, and then there were around 300,000 reservists were calling for duty right now. But as we know, Gaza has been under Israeli until 2005, and then they left in 2005. Now going inside into Gaza, even whatever just looks like it's going back again to the situation before 2005. So what do you think is like the the solution will come out of this thing right now? Of course, there is the Hamas is doing very tragic attack on the Israeli, but at the same time, looks like a lot of civilians also on the other side, on the Israeli, on the Gaza side. So what do you see as an Israeli? What do you see in the near future?
I think, as you learned in our prior interview, I'm not optimistic about anything. I'm truly pessimistic. If Israel will enter, and I have to say, my son is also in the reserves, and I'm very, very worried. I begged him not to go. I think what's going to happen is going to be a bloodbath. The Hamas organization is very strong organizations, terror organizations, but it's still an organization which is very strong. It's getting, I guess, its weapons from Iran, and they're well prepared. One of our mistakes, our reoccurring mistakes, as in Israel, as I said, from Yom Kippur and even before, we disrespect our enemies. We disrespect the Arab world. We disrespect the Palestinians. We don't respect the Hamas, and we don't respect enough the Hezbollah. Each time we had a lesson in the Second Lebanon War. We learned that the Hezbollah is a very strong force, and we have to take his threat seriously. And I don't think we didn't take the Hezbollah seriously at all. And I think that when the ground soldiers are going to enter, we are going to have a bloodbath. They are waiting for us. We have to remember that the Hezbollah is dug deep into tunnels underneath Gaza. And as you said, the people that are suffering are civilians in Gaza, civilians that are suffering. They're dying, the children, the women, the people that have nothing to do with the Hamas. They're just citizens, so they are going to suffer. And we're going to have a lot of our youngsters suffer as they did in 2014, maybe even worse. And this is something, as I said, that in the left wing, and a very small group of left-wing people in Israel, we are constantly being repeating that if we do not reach a peace agreement, even a hudna, we don't expect to have peace with Hamas because Hamas does not want to recognize Israel, but some sort of a serious peace treaty with the Hamas and with the Palestinians in general. Israel as a Jewish state doesn't have a chance. It doesn't have a chance. We have to remember that between the sea to the Jordan, we are between 14 to 15 million people, and we're talking at least about 6 or 7 million Palestinians in this territory. We have to recognize this, as painful as it is. We cannot create now a situation. There's no chance of a two-state solution. This is my belief. We have to accept that we are two nations on the same small land, and we have to strive to reach some sort of agreement to live here in some sort of acceptance and peace. There's no other way, unfortunately. We don't want to continue. I mean, I don't want to continue living in a situation where there's constant wars, constant casualties. I remember myself, I was born in 60. I remember since 67, we're constantly in wars. We all have these scars of wars. Um, I remember as a child I remember telling my grandmother that I don't want to go to the army when I grow up. And the answer was always, till you reach that age, we will live in peace. There won't be any army. And by now we're already sending our grandchildren to this army, and it's a very difficult situation, and it feels that the political leadership here in Israel and a lot of people do not accept the idea that we have to share this land with Palestinians. We have to. There's no other solution.
So we know that like Middle East is one of the very volatile region in the world, and then there are a lot of different warring factions. Like especially the Israeli and also the Arabs, and then so many people think that this war may expand, may go beyond the borders, beyond like the Gaza Strip. So what do you see about this one? How, and then how also the majority of the Israel people, what do they think about the situation going on right now?
As I said, the majority of the people, first of all, are in a state of grief, great grief. It is a shock to us both that the small organization, the terrorist organization, has succeeded to create such mayhem. We know we've in the past we had terrorists infiltrating Israel and causing death tolls and taking hostages, not to a different country, but we had that situations, but we never had it on such a scale and with such cruelty. Because what happened now is, I think, I'm not sure that the world has seen such cruelty in such a short period of time and in such concentrated area. But so I think people now in Israel, unfortunately, are reacting to the cruelty that they saw, and unfortunately, they're calling for the Gaza Strip to be erased. So it's difficult. It's difficult to be a left-wing activist at this moment and say, we're all suffering at the moment, but it won't help us if we cause more casualties, and especially for civilians and children on the other side. So it's difficult to convince the Israeli community that we have to rethink how we deal with the Palestinians here. Mm-hmm. And as I said, what you mentioned, I think also, like, for instance, I'm sure you heard the Biden speech 2 days ago. A lot of Israelis were very touched by his speech. I must say that I am a bit eerie about the way, the fact that he's bringing 2 aircraft carriers to the area. You do not bring 2 aircraft carriers in order to fight the Hamas, okay? There's a global interest here. There's geopolitical interests, and I'm afraid that the conflict between Iran and the United States and Iran and Saudi and all these things, I think they're playing in at the moment, and we are going to be actually victims of this thing. I don't see this as a good thing. I can understand the Israeli, the feeling that we want revenge, the feeling that also we are tired of what is coming from Gaza. And there's no quick solution. There's no clean solution. It's never going to be clean and quick. We're going to have to go through a process where, as I said, we have to rethink how we are dealing with the Palestinians here in this area.
Yeah, I mean the casualty is gonna be both sides. It's gonna be very difficult, and war always, it just takes life and destroy property. I mean, there is nothing you can gain out of it. But again, I understand the emotion of the Israeli people right now because of all these horrific atrocities that happen on the border side. So we hope that like a solution that or peace happens quicker for everybody in the region. Obviously, the situation is affecting everyone right now in Israel, and no question. Like everybody in Israel, in Gaza, in Palestine. But as a human rights activist, as also working with a lot of Eritreans, how do you think this will affect the Eritrean refugees in Israel? It might not be, of course, everybody's affected, but what about with regard to the Eritreans? Also, if there is anything that you want to say.
So first of all, as you said, everybody is affected by this because the rocket bombs, they don't make a difference between whether you're an Eritrean or an Israeli or a Bedouin or even a Palestinian in Israel.
Mhm.
So everybody's under the threat, and especially for not only Eritreans, for a lot of, you have to understand that Israel, the Israeli south and north, everything out of the center of Tel Aviv, basically people are living in very bad conditions. Israelis, as everybody else, Israel really hasn't, the high tech nation didn't really develop its peripheral areas. Buildings there do not have safe rooms, what they call the mamad, that will save lives in a case of rockets. And the buildings, the structure of them is very weak. So people have to escape to stairways, and we're also talking about if when an earthquake will happen, and it will happen, a lot of buildings will collapse and a lot of lives will be lost. So Israel is not really taking care of its population. This is something that we also, as left wings, are saying, that there's a lot of money going into the occupied territories and to the people that are living in these territories, but hardly any money into the Israeli society, whether it's the education system, the health system, the welfare system, and the transportation system. Israel is really, sometimes you look at it and it seems like a third world. It's non-developed outside of the center. And then this, I'm saying this because a lot of Eritreans, of course, lived in impoverished areas. That they live in areas in Ashkelon and Ashdod, which is completely bombarded by the Hamas constantly, and they don't have the safe rooms and they don't have shelters that they can. So this is, and also it's impacting a lot of Israelis and Eritreans as well, because a lot of businesses is closed. All the restaurants where a lot of Eritrean works, everything is closed. And we know that the social security, the Eritrean and the foreigners here are not receiving social security. So they're left to, again, like within the corona, to to manage on their own. So this is influencing them. How is it influencing when how is the Israeli society? Let's talk in a minute about the fact that the Eritreans are helping now, but as in the Israeli society at the moment, they're not looking at the Eritreans specifically or at the asylum seekers. They're not. It doesn't worry them at the moment. So, like, if the government decides to pass something regarding the asylum seekers, I think the public will like think what's going on. Is what's important to you? So this also happened during the corona. Nobody really took interest of what's happening to the Eritrean community, whether it's good or bad, because the government of Israel, as I said, I think I mentioned to you on our last interview, the government of Israel is creating enemies where it directs the hate towards, and whether it's Palestinians, Iran, the asylum seekers. So in these times, it's only towards the Palestinians. How is it going to influence the community in the future? I'm not sure. The Israeli society, as we know it up to now, it will not continue to exist. There is something that happened. This event changed us completely. We will not be the same when these events end or unfold. It won't be the same. So I don't really know how we what's go. I don't know what the future holds for the Eritrean community, and that not, I mean, I'm saying all this, didn't, I'm not taking into the issue of the fact that so many Eritreans volunteered now, and this is a, I'm really hoping that the Israeli society that is exposed to what is happening, what the community is doing, I really, really hope that it will something that the Israeli society will remember in favor for the community. This is something that I'm trying to post as much and talk about it and try and get the newspaper or the media, the news media, to take notice about it. It's very difficult because people's attention is somewhere else. But in general, this is something that I believe, and also you have to think about the Eritrean community that is being involved now in this effort. They're also dealing with a lot of Israelis that are not us, that didn't have any contact with the Eritrean community. And I think I'm hoping that they are seeing the community and how wonderful it is, and it's something that might influence in the way the Israeli society treats the Eritrean or the asylum seeker community in the future, because it's not only Eritreans, also Sudanese and South Sudanese. They're very much involved in these efforts. And also saying that, I think as well, we mentioned that the last interview, when the government's plan to deport forcefully the community, the asylum seeker community in 2018, I think we mentioned that it was amazing that the Israeli public took a stand and said, we won't accept that. We will not agree to that. So there's already, I think the Israeli society slowly is accepting the fact that asylum seekers are here and have to be treated in a fair manner.
Oh, yeah, yeah. You already said it earlier. Probably we just want to expand into that one.
Yeah.
There are a lot of Eritreans very close to the war zone. So obviously everybody's affected. The Israeli and Eritreans, whatever is on the war zone is a war zone. The bomb is not going to differentiate between Eritreans, Israeli, white, black. It doesn't matter. But people are living these places. But most Eritreans, since they don't have cars and stuff like that, I heard that they are in a lot of trouble. At the same time, also they don't have these benefits from the government. That's also another issue. So can you elaborate? Can you expand on this one? How difficult it is going to be for Eritrean refugees to be displaced from the war zone? What is the support that they get from the government, if anything? Or should they get any support from their community? So if you can elaborate or expand on this one.
So first of all, I have to first say that the government, and this is not for the first time, the government is a non-functional government. Okay, it's not what you see now is basic a civilian effort to gather food and supplies for the people living in what they call it the Gaza, the Otef Gaza, the places near the border, and also for the soldiers. You see a lot of basically the army, the Israeli army, as you said, is mostly reserved army. These are the people that are fighting mostly. And so the Israeli society is taking care of itself now, as it has many, many times before. We don't see, we don't see the government functioning on any level. So that, none of us enjoy the benefit from the government at the moment. And the evacuation is not a government thing. The evacuation is, out of the good-hearted of people offering homes or offering, I don't know, hotels. It's basically the public that is offering support for people and helping people to move. And this is happening every time. It's happened in the Lebanon's war. It always happens. This is one of the strongest points of the Israeli society, that when in a state of crisis, we come together and we support one another as much as possible without any consideration to your political ideas, because people from near the border mostly are right-wing, vote for the government mostly. So, but nobody cares. Everybody's giving a hand and helping them. So the issue of the asylum seekers, as you said, I know that already 12 Eritrean families left the area of Ashkelon, and I wasn't involved in that, but I know that they found the places for them. Houses in, I don't know whether it's in the center of Israel or maybe north, but basically, first of all Israel is under attack. I don't have a shelter, safe room. I don't have a shelter. I go out each bombs to the stairways and hope for the best. So it's not that there's a lot of places that we can offer the Eritrean community that will be safe. In Tel Aviv, as I said, a lot of the community that lives here in South Tel Aviv, the situation there is they're very run-down homes, and it's very difficult. So it's very difficult to find a place for other people that will be safe because, as I said, we have bombs from the north, and the range of the bombs almost reaches all Israel. There's no place that's really protected. But in general, as I said, the Eritreans are in a very difficult situation, the asylum seekers in general, because they have no social rights. The government, a lot of people it's going to be very, very difficult for a lot of people. I have a very good friend, okay? She lives in Ashkelon, and her house was bombed and burned. She has nowhere to be. She has to restart everything. So, and again, we're starting collecting money for her. We're trying to help her, but she is probably going to end up receiving something from the insurance. It's going to take her a long and bureaucratical fight in order to get it. But the Eritreans don't even have that. The Eritreans, the Sudanese, they don't have that. They will not receive anything. And it's going to be up to us as activists to try and help this community as much as we can. I'm very worried, as I mentioned before, that they're not working in these days, or at least not on a regular basis, and they don't have enough money aside to put in order for them to miss work days. We are not going to be able to ask the government to take care of this, to help them. There's nothing, there's nobody in the government that's going to even listen to us. So I'm very worried, I must say. I'm very, very worried. I don't know what to say.
Yeah. It's a very difficult situation right now. Again, this is not only for the Eritreans. This is like for everyone living in Israel. We're just only talking because
No. I accept that this is the issue, and unfortunately, I don't have something hopeful to say. I'm very, very worried. I don't know. We're probably going to have to ask the public to help us again, but that does, mostly, if you ask me the truth, mostly the people that are going to help themselves are the Eritreans, the community themselves, that always, as the Israelis, push and pull in order to help as much as possible the community.
Yeah, I think this is a very difficult time right now. Obviously, following this situation in Israel right now, you just touched it earlier. Many Eritrean justice seekers in blue jersey are supporting the community. So what's your impression about this initiative taken by the Eritrean justice seekers to show solidarity and lend their hands in support of their community in this difficult time? I just want to show you a video and then we can talk about it, okay?
يحواتنا انجرا قالوا كل ነገር አዳሌን ጎብሮ ዘለዋያን እስራኤላውያን ኤርትራውያን ሁሉ በሐሳብ በጣም ደስ ዘብል ኩነታት ይዘሎ
Yeah, so go ahead, Sigal.
I must say that I've seen this video. They send it to me, and every time I see it, it brings tears to my eyes. Really, I get so emotional regarding the way the community is behaving. I wrote an article to an outlet, left-wing outlet here, and I said that it asked me about the volunteering of this community, and I said, I don't want to romanticize the community because people are people eventually, but ever since I've met this community, and we're talking many years ago, I've seen the spirit of coming together, pushing, helping themselves. I remember when I started seeing in 2011 and 12 the community that was hardly, only reached Israel and hardly had anything, lived in apartments with, a lot of asylum seekers lived in many 10 or few people in the same apartment. And the issue of the captives in the Sinai, the people in Sinai, that the Bedouins would ask for money in order to release them, and they would gather money, and the sums would be, I didn't understand that. I was, when they told me the amount of money that they had to gather, or that they gathered, and I was under the impression that they were probably giving me figures that were mistaken. How could they possibly raise $30,000 or $40,000 again and again? And I was amazed to see the community. And at that point they didn't have social media as they do today, and they would actually go from door to door, from church to church, from place to place, and ask people to. And I was amazed. That amazed me. And then I saw it, and then I started seeing it, and of course in the Corona, I was involved in raising a lot of money for the community, but the community themselves, they got organized very quickly, and I think they supported almost everybody within the community, preventing people to being either thrown out for their homes, or having money for the food for the children, and especially women that were single women in the community. They actually took care of the community, and I was amazed. And ever since then, every crisis there was in Israel, and we have many crises, unfortunately, whether it's I don't know, semi-wars or fires or whatever. Within half an hour since the report of the crisis, I'm starting to get telephones and messages from the community. Can we help? What can we do to help? And I even wrote in the article that in a way it's I don't even know how to react to this, because how am I going to find for you places to get involved? I mean, how am I going to do that? I don't have connections with the firefighters. I don't. But they always are concerned about what is happening around them. They always want to be involved. And this time again, this horrible thing, this horrible event happened on Saturday morning. Saturday afternoon, I started getting phones from both the Eritrean, Sudanese, and South Sudanese community. How can we help? How can we donate? And they wanted to donate blood, and they said, can I volunteer in hospitals? Can I? Some even asked me, can they help the army? Which of course I'm not supportive of that, but in general. So I mean, I know the community by now. I know where their heart is and how they immediately stand with the Israeli society. I think what surprised me this time even more is two things. First of all, I wrote that, I posted out in Facebook. I said, the community would like to help. Do you know anybody who knows where they can help? I don't think I even pressed send on that post, and the community called me and said, okay, we found a place. And I was like, how did that happen? I mean, how did you find a place? This was on Sunday, half a day after what happened, and they found where they're going to volunteer, and they found different places in Tel Aviv and in Jerusalem and in Tanya and Petah Tikva. And it's just like, I was amazed how they went and found places that they can be involved and how they can help. And also and then the other thing is that they did it so beautifully. They were organized with these blue shirt colors, and we'll talk about that in a minute, but it took a while for people to understand. People said, oh, we thought they were delivery from Walt I mean, people didn't really understand what is this blue shirt thing. So this is also a genius way of convenient, sending out a message in general. It was, and now I find myself explaining to the Israeli, and they explain also. They're doing a great job of why they're wearing these shirts. The other thing that amazed me is that, and another thing on top of that, not only were they organized by finding place and coming in a specific shirt that they stood out, is as you show in the video, the women of the community starting preparing food and injera and bringing this food. And again, and people don't understand this. Two things they don't understand. The Eritrean community is not allowed to drive in a car. So how do they bring upon these things? And also, people coming from the areas that are bombed, they have to come by public transportation. And that's not easy. It's costly. And it's dangerous. It is dangerous to get on a bus from Ashkelon to Ashdod to come to Tel Aviv. You don't know where there's going to be a bomb falling. And so I'm really hoping that the Israeli society understands that these people are putting themselves in risk in order to come and volunteer, and also putting their money. And another thing on top of that is that they're feeding themselves and other people. And this organization, really, I'm completely shocked. I keep asking them, but how did you bring the food? How do you carry this to these places? And it's amazing. And the other thing I wanted to speak about that was very different this time, that I started seeing and getting messages from Eritreans abroad, Eritreans that were here in Israel, and that now they are, whether in Canada, United States, maybe even Europe, and they're sending out messages of support. But they're also asking me, can I donate money? Where can I donate money? Where can I show my support? And it just comes to show you that it's not it's not a PR thing. It's not an interest of, the Eritreans are trying to show that they're okay with the Israeli society, so the Israeli society will accept. No. This is coming from the depth of their heart. And it's very, very emotional. I mean, a lot of people wrote to me on the status that I share with the community helping. I'm so sorry. That the community is showing us, giving us a ray of hope, a ray of light in such dark times.
Yeah. It's really, as you say, a lot of the Eritreans they really want to help. This is not a PR stunt, or this is not something they try to show. Because I talk to a lot of those young people, women and men who are supporting. They feel that Israel is their home. They say that we've been in this country for 15 years, 12 years, 13 years. So this is our home. This is we are doing it. For ourselves. Actually, that's what they were telling me. We are doing this for ourselves, not for the Israelis, because literally. Our life depends on this country. If our employees are not safe, we're not going to be safe. If our educators are not safe, our kids are not going to go to school. So everything is this is part of the community right now. And
Yeah.
I'm very happy that they were doing what they were supposed to do as a community, because it's always important you give back to the community that's giving you a hope. Even though there are a lot of challenges as we have been discussing it, but again, it's always also there is a good side of the bad side as well. So
Yeah.
all those Eritreans are they really doing this one from their heart, and I hope that the Israeli community will see it over time. I'm sure this time is a difficult time for them to get noticed stuff like this, but I'm sure they will see these things over time. This is what I hope. But it really doesn't matter. When you're doing stuff for yourself, it really doesn't matter whether the other side saw it or not. This is how I see it as well.
I agree. But it's as we discussed, and you said, it's more than challenges. Israeli society has failed to accept the asylum seekers as we should have, and so many years that we're still calling them infiltrators, and we're having a separate school system in Tel Aviv, and all these things that are so really I find them very difficult to. As an Israeli, I find it hard to forgive my society that is not treating the asylum seekers as I think it should have. And I told you, my grandmother was an infiltrator. She came into Israel illegally. So I don't understand why we're treating the community as we are. And and I think they're paying us back only with good-hearted and good deeds. Really, this is basically how I see it. So it's truly touching, and I really hope that the Israeli society. I truly pray to God that the Israeli society will realize and try to be just thankful a little bit to the way they're behaving, because they are really putting in a lot of effort and time and so on.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, the September 2nd, the thing that happened has a lot of impact on the Israeli community. We
Very
already,
much.
we talk about that one, and obviously, the Israeli community, they were not happy about the stuff that happened. But following the days, they were also able to differentiate between the two sides, between the one who have the blue jersey and then the red ones. And right now, as we see, those with the blue jersey are the one who are showing solidarity with the Israeli community. Obviously, the embassy and then also the one who has supporting the regime, or with the red jersey, they were nowhere to be found. So, what message do you think this will send to the community? To the Israeli people?
Today, my partner, he said to me, we were discussing this because, on the posts that I post with how the community is volunteering and how amazing and inspiring it is, I still have the haters writing, yes, these are the same people that, and then they post the videos from the 2nd of September 2nd, and these are the same people. Remember, these are the people that caused mayhem in Tel Aviv, and again, the issue of they're all rapists and so on and so forth. So, and so it's disturbing for me. I keep it annoys me. But my partner said to me today, within a short while, nobody will remember the events of the 2nd. I mean, of course, there are people that are going always to, but he said nobody's going to remember what's happening now in Israel in general. Nobody's going to care about it. Don't worry, don't care about it too much. I'm hopeful. It's. I really don't know. I really don't know. You have people that are going to use this against the community again and again and again. This is how it always is. But I hope that, as I said, in general, now the people that are working side to side by the Eritreans and seeing them giving in, I see a lot of other people post. I'm not the only one who's posting these pictures. I see other people working with them, posting, and people also that I don't know are sending me the pictures and saying, I worked today with the Eritreans and they were amazing. I really, really hope that it will influence the way the Israeli society in general sees them, re-sees them, because for the many years now, the Eritreans were, or the asylum seekers issues were under the radar. I mean, nobody really took interest in them. What happened? Israel is in a situation where, before even the events that happened last week, it's in a volatile situation. We're going through, the elections, and so many people are 40 weeks. Can you imagine half of the population going out to demonstration for 40 weeks? Consecutive weeks. So I mean, the Israeli society is involved in so many other issues, so they don't really see necessarily the asylum seekers of that issue. The 2nd of September was like a sort of people were like, "What's going on? Who are these people? What are they doing?" It's like in a bad way, it put attention. I'm hoping that what the Eritrean community now is doing, I hope that will be something that will stick in people's mind, and that's what they will remember, and not with the events of the 2nd of September.
Do you think that the regime supporters and then also the embassy usually, I mean the regime in Eritrea, the stand is probably, you may already heard about it. It's against the Israeli government. That's what their stand is. The regime in Eritrea. They have this statement they were saying that that they were standing with the other side, and that's why the reason also you don't see those people with the red jersey, because they get orders from the Eritrean embassy. So do you think that this will rectify their behavior for the Israeli government or the society? Maybe not now, but in the future, because right now it's a different thing, like people's mind is occupied with the war. But when things getting settled down, do you think this will rectify the behavior of the regime and the embassy and their supporters?
I want to check what I heard is right. You're saying that the Eritrean government is supporting the Palestinians now and openly saying so?
Yeah.
Really? I
Yes.
haven't heard about that.
Yes, they have this statement, a press statement saying that yes.
If that's the case, if that's the case and the Israeli public will know about it, it will, wow, that's not going to be not being accepted very well. Really, the Israeli society now is totally intolerant to these kinds of messages. Whether it's going to influence the way the government treats the embassy or the asylum seekers that are supporting the government, I'm not sure. I think I mentioned to you before, Israel's interests in Eritrea are far more greater than a human issue. A humanitarian issue. Israeli government doesn't care. Let's say this: Israeli government doesn't really care about even the humanitarian issue of Israelis. Okay, it doesn't really care. You hear our public parliament members, Smotrich, saying that we shouldn't take in consideration the hostage. We should bombard Gaza, whether the hostages are there. So you can see what kind of government we're dealing with. And it's the interests that are behind the scenes that I don't, I know that Eritrea is sitting on the Red Sea and so forth and so forth. And I understand the Israeli interest in, I think something is beyond that. I don't know what it is. And as I said to you before, it's ridiculous that that the Eritrean government shut down the Israeli embassy in Asmara, and we still have the Eritrean embassy here. That doesn't normally happen in political relationships. It's not something that's normal. So I don't understand that. And I feel, as I told you before, I feel that Israel is doing I don't know whether it's best to protect the asylum seekers that are supportive of the government, but in a way, Israeli government is looking aside, at least, not taking care of this issue. That's why we reached where we reached a month ago. I don't know whether the Israeli government is going to take actions against these supportive of the Hamas within here in Israel. I hope it would, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure. There's something much, much larger here that I don't understand.
Yeah, it's very hard to predict. Again, the political interest is always beyond the humanitarian issue for most governments, like everywhere in the world. But let's get back to the Eritreans with the blue jersey supporting the community. Do they get any notice by the Israeli medias or anything within the society or the community, or have you heard anything from the Israeli people or anything like that? What is the impression, if you heard of anything?
No, of course. It's the thing is that it was very difficult to get a good attention from the public prior to the events that happened on October 7th. And the demonstration, the women demonstration, the police tried to do everything in its power to prevent this demonstration from happening. I don't know how much you were involved in this issue, but the women went there, and the police refused to give them authority to have this demonstration. And In Israel, you don't really need the police authority. I told the women that, okay, fine, the police doesn't give you, you can still go on with your demonstration. I had a lawyer writing notification to the police and publishing it on Twitter and telling them a demonstration is going to happen whether you permit it or not, because the right is given to any human being, not to only a citizen. We had to there was a struggle there with the police in order to get the permission, and the suggestion was to have the demonstration in front of the police headquarters, the main police headquarters of Tel Aviv, not in Tel Aviv, of this whole district, the central district, because there was enough space there, and there's a very big highway going there, so a main road, not a highway, that a lot of people will notice it. But what the police did on the night before the demonstration, it barricaded the whole police station. You have never saw anything like that. They barricaded it from all around this, and it's a huge police station. They barricaded it completely, and they moved the women to protest in a nearby area, which is not viewed by the public. So that kind of damaged the whole idea of demonstrating. But we succeeded bringing a lot of newspaper reporters and so on and so forth, and they covered it. And it was an impressive event. The women there were there. The police notified it. The police answered the press and said it was a very peaceful demonstration, and the women behaved well. Of course, what did they think when they barricaded the police station? That 400, 500 women will storm the police station, and I don't know what we'll do. You see, this is something that in regarding to the events that happened on October 7th, you can imagine, this is something that the police is always, somehow treating the demonstrators, the Israeli demonstrators, the Eritrean demonstrators, always treating them as if if we pose some sort of threat. Well, we don't pose threat on the police, the army. We don't pose threat on anybody. We're law-abiding people, and the Eritreans are law-abiding. The fact that what happened on the 2nd of September is something else. But in general, there was no reason to barricade the police. There's no reason to barricade our demonstrations as Israelis, and to bring so many police forces. We're not going to do anything that is illegal or dangerous or violent. We have the right to block highways. We have the right to demonstration, and so does the Eritrean community. But in general, as I said, I want to go back to the fact that it was an impressive demonstration because it was held by women only, women and children. The girl that you see here, Nazarat, she was amazing. She spoke amazing. So it was an impressive event. It did reach out to the Israeli society, not as much as I would wish it or want it to happen. But in general, yes, this is it did resonate. But unfortunately, the demonstration happened on Thursday, and a lot of publication, it wasn't published enough by Friday, because Friday is like half a day. And then I was hoping there would be a follow-up, but on Saturday, as usual, everything goes crazy in Israel, and the thing with Hamas happened, so it didn't get as much as exposed as much as I hoped. But in general, it's out there.
Yeah, so this demonstration was organized by the women, and as we can see, it's only women and children and girls, and there are children with them. So you are a woman, a human rights activist, and then how can you describe this Eritrean women in Israel? I mean, I know you've been dealing with a lot of them. There is a lot of challenges for everybody, but there are a lot of single moms. They have to, with the kids, and they have to deal with their education and everything. They are very strong women, of course, but how would you describe them? What's your impression about this Eritrean woman that you have been dealing with them for the last 10, 15 years?
First of all, I must say that I love them dearly, really. Through the woman, the Eritrean woman that was my entrance into the Eritrean community, as I told you. I'm very impressed by these women. They're facing. I'm going to try not to be emotional. Okay, I'm not renewing any fact to you, but you know that they went through all the difficulties in whether it's in Eritrea, but mostly the trip to Israel. I don't have words to describe what happened to these women on the way to Israel. On the way that they fled, it wasn't on. They didn't specifically come to Israel, but the fleeing from Eritrea, what they had to face. We know of a lot of women that are victims to horrifying acts that had occurred. The Israelis, as I said, never really gave this community any treatment that it should have, because a lot of women entered Israel and they were injured like the men, but worse because of what they went through, and they were put into prisons when they came. They didn't get medical treatment, and worse, they didn't get any psychological treatment. Okay, because what they went through is, I'm not sure any human can go through. And when you come into a place where you're not receiving any treatment, and you're also having to fight to manage on your own, because the Israeli government never gave them anything. I mean, they didn't give them one shekel. They didn't take care of housing. They didn't care. Really, most of them were just thrown to the streets, and literally thrown to the streets. They came to this place by the bus station, and they were in the parks, and it was winter, or the summer here is very hot, and they had no place to go. The community again the community that was already here took in these people into their places. A lot of women suffer from they're ashamed of what happened to them. What they shouldn't have been. They shouldn't be shamed because they didn't do anything bad, but they are shamed, and they don't share what happened to them. It's hard for them to share, both in the community and outside of the community, because it took them a long time to trust Israelis, and just for, and they were right. It's very difficult to trust us. And unfortunately, you only had organizations that tried to do their best, but there's not enough money for these organizations, and they couldn't offer any help. A lot of the women that were victimized in Sinai, we succeeded. I mean, it's not we, but they were taken by, if I'm not mistaken, the Swiss government. They were taken to, so a lot of them were taken there, and hopefully they're receiving treatment. But those that weren't are in a very bad situation, suffering from post-trauma. And the community, I sometimes think the community themselves, they didn't really accept them well. I guess there's a whole stigmatizing of somebody that was traumatized in the Sinai. So I'm not sure that they received a lot of help from the community regarding this issue. And I know that of some of them, unfortunately, and this is so difficult for me to say, please forgive me, but a lot of them ended up working as prostitution, which is trauma on trauma. I'm always saying that the women in Israel, the Eritrean women, not only the Eritrean, the Sudanese, but there's mostly Eritrean women, they're suffering both from as refugees in Israel are suffering, but they're also suffering within the communities, and the fact that they're not treated equally within the community. They're not looked on respectfully, and these people need to be looked upon in a great respect, because they went through hell and they're still functioning. On top of that, the fact that they're raising children alone is I can't raise a child alone in Israel. It's too expensive. It's very difficult to work and to pay for rent, electricity, and food, and all these things. It's extremely difficult. I visited a woman that lived in a shelter, not a shelter, like a shack, okay? She lived with her 2 or 3 children in a shack with no windows, no running water. Okay, of course, no air conditioning. No, and I don't know. I was really devastated by this. I was really, really devastated by this. And this is what I'm saying, that the Israeli society, the Israeli hasn't taken care of these people that have suffered greatly. And it's now what's worrying me more now even is the second generation. We in Israel are experts in the fact of a post-trauma to second generation, whether it's the Holocaust. We're talking even now about third generation post-trauma. We're talking about grandchildren of Holocaust survivors. We're talking about post-trauma from war. People that we have. I have a very good friend. She's dealing with children of army soldiers that came back with post-trauma. And the post-trauma transfers to the children. And these children are not receiving treatment as well. And as we know from experience of all the world, the second generation of, and I'm not saying that the asylum seekers are migrants, but we know all around the world the problems with the second generation of migrants always occur when they grow up, because they feel on one hand they were born here, they were born in a specific country, and they're not receiving the same as other children. And that creates a lot of anger, and that will create a lot of problems. We see it already now, unfortunately. We see children, like teenager children, maybe even younger, from the community roaming around the streets without any supervision. And they're picking out fights with Israeli children. And the videos coming out of these events are extremely, extremely worrying and sad. And of course, it's all stems to the fact that the Israeli government is not taking care of these children as it should, and it's not taking care of their mothers as it should. We need to take care of them. We need to provide them with the correct environment and education and care to their needs. These children really need our help. I know of children that went through the Sinai desert with their mothers when they were young, and now they're acting out. Now you have them, they're all 13, 14, 15, and they're acting out. And there's nothing there. I mean, the parents are left alone to deal with it, and it's very, very difficult. And it's totally, I'm not sure how we can deal with it, but the issue of the children bothers me a lot. The issue of these children, and the fact that they're not going to be able to maybe break through the fact that they are children of refugees and children of post-traumatic people. And we, as a society, we have a big challenge here, but we can step up to that challenge. We can step up to the challenge and give these children a better future, much better future. And I think it's something that we should have done, both because it's our interest, because we don't want these children roaming around and creating problems for themselves and other people, but also it's a chance for us to give to the Eritrean, to the Sudanese society, to the Eritrean community, to the asylum seeker community, a chance for their children to have a better future. And at the moment, it's not happening.
Yeah, indeed, it's very traumatic, and especially for those young children. And then many parents that I speak to, they always worry about their kids because when your child doesn't have a future that you can see, I think that's very difficult for any parent. I am a parent as well, and I cannot imagine how I would feel if I don't have anything I can see future for my kids. So I know that there's a lot of challenge for all these asylum seekers, and especially also the mothers. But with everything, they always stand tall, and then they very strong women. You find them everywhere, not only in demonstration. You find them helping, feeding their brothers, their husbands, their community. So very very strong woman. There is, it's very, I cannot even uh, say enough how strong they are as Eritreans.
These women should be really, these women should be celebrated and praised, and really the community should praise these women. They are amazing. Truly, they are amazing. They are amazing. I also see them as a vector of change for the society in general. Really, they're amazing. They're amazing. They should be truly praised about what, how they're behaving and what they're doing. You have to remember that these people are also, the women are working outside of the homes. They don't have, as you do have in a community, a small community, they don't have the help of their families. They're alone with their children and alone with their, it's truly, they're amazing.
Yeah, indeed. There was, I just wanted to, as a human rights activist, there was a fundraising being done to help those Eritrean refugees in Israel. Let me share that first, and then we can talk about it. Okay. So there has been this fundraising, which is for the Eritrean refugees in Israel. The goal is around 300,000. Now it's around 277,000. It's almost getting close to the goal. So, as a human rights activist, as you have been working with Eritrean refugees for the last 10, 15 years, what are the major problems that the Eritrean refugees are facing, and how do you think this money or this would help the Eritrean refugees in Israel?
So first of all, I think we discussed the fact that there are, after the events of the 2nd of September, there are a lot of people that are injured, and that it's hard for them to go back to work. I know people that are probably, the recovery process is going to be quite a while, and they can't go back to work. So the family, there's no money put aside for these people because they're working and they're paying whatever it is month by month. So there are people left without a meanings to support their families, and that's an issue that I don't know how, but that has to be dealt with. And also, I think the legal fees that some of them are going to face, because whether they're charged now by the police of all kinds of that they're claiming that they've been violent, or they need legal support now. So this is also something that's things that occurred after the 2nd of September. Before, there was the issue of, as I said, my dream would have been, and this is something I started before the corona, but it ended after the corona. It all completely failed. Is places to take care of the children's out in the afternoons. I know that there's a wonderful Tigrinya school, Senate school, which is amazing what they're doing, amazing. But there needs to be these places all over Israel, wherever the Eritrean community is, to have these children after school, even if they're, the Senate school, I think they're till age 9 or something, but this is exactly the age that we need to continue to have them in a specific place, help them with their education, help them, provide them with a good meal when they come home, because the mothers are working till very late hours of the evening. So these children are left on their own. And to prevent them from getting in trouble, but also to give them the option to have a better education. It's really, really important. This is something, I had somebody in the central bus station that he offered me space without money, and it's right near the community. And I was hoping we were starting to think about something, how we are going to do it together with the community, but that everything happened after the corona, everything collapsed. So, but I really would love to see these kinds of how do you call it, projects coming out to give the children a lot of to keep them involved, to give them computer lessons, to try and create a different environment for these children. I wish, and this is something the community cannot do only with money, but I wish that we could receive some, as I said, consulting, social, a psychology help for these children to deal with everything that they are facing in life, because they're facing a very difficult life. And somebody needs to be out there and see and guide them. So these are, if I had the money to do something, this is something I would invest in, because the children are the next generation, and they're amazing children. Really, they are. They're
Mhm.
so wonderful, and they just need a place to grow and shine and be protected, because they're not protected on the streets now. Definitely not in Tel Aviv. They're not protected. It's not a, it's a dangerous. They live in areas where you have a lot of drug addictions and a lot of things that these children shouldn't be exposed to.
Yeah, I think there is also, especially right now with the situation going on in Israel, since a lot of people might be displaced, a lot of people might also be out of work.
Yes, yes,
There might be people also need help financially. And then I
yes,
heard also a lot of those Eritrean refugees, they don't have insurance, and they have, even for the, minor stuff, they cannot get health care. So probably this is not enough money, but with the money is
yeah,
probably also needed for such kind of activity. Do you think so?
yeah. Yes, yes. The issue of health insurance, these all these years, I've been saying the same thing back and forth to the community. I know it's expensive, but you need to pay for healthcare, especially for the children. Especially for the children. There's many times I raised privately money for a family to pay the healthcare, everything that they own, because the government won't, the health, the companies of the healthcare won't accept money from now on. They, if you were registered when your child was registered a few years ago, and you stopped paying through the corona years, and since, you have to pay that, all that amount again. And I really, sometimes I do funds to help families. It's really, really important. I have a child now that she needs all kinds of medical issues, and we're stuck. We raise the money, it's okay, but I'm starting to run with her to different doctors, and it was neglected. And these things, the families need to pay the health insurance no matter what. It has to be there. It has to be paid. I'm paying for health insurance because I'm not employed, so I have to pay my own. But it's something that people need to do. The community needs to understand that it's very, very important. And if they don't have the option, it would be wonderful if money would be raised, and that they would have that health insurance for the children, especially for the children. It's also for the adults, really, because the community is not getting any younger, and there's a lot of people with disease, and it's very difficult to get right treatment if you don't have health insurance. I must say, in general, okay, Israel still has a good health system. It still has a good health system. Not as good as it was, not as good as we want it to be, but it's still a good healthcare system. And I have to say that there were situations where I went to the emergency room with a family member or a child, and they got the best of the healthcare that they could possibly get, really. And the government, the hospital would give them, and it didn't care whether they're Eritrean or whatever. They gave them the best healthcare possible. Sometimes it's difficult to have the healthcare. The treatment, the continuous treatment. Okay, because the hospital says, okay, you owe us so much money. We're not going to give you the continuous, but still they give them a good. But then on the other hand, we have to remember we're dealing with a very racist government now, and like they stopped a lot of things. Like, for instance, they stopped programs of giving healthcare to people that are sick in cancer patients, the Eritrean cancer patient.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully people will do more on this one, so that we can help the Eritrean community in Israel, because they have a lot of issues. It's not only like for health issue. They have also now day-to-day issue. Since most of these Eritreans, they work in day-to-day day laborers. They work in a restaurant and stuff like that. And especially with the situation right now, even after September 2nd, a lot of them were out of work because they were fearing for their life. So I'm hoping that the Eritrean community all over the world they do more to support the Eritreans in Israel, at least for this difficult time, and especially right now also with the war going on. There is more struggle and more issue will come. That's what my assumption is. Anyways, before we finish up our today's session, today there was a video that was sent by one of a friend from Israeli. There was this Israeli politician that they have met in a place that they were helping. So let me play this video, and then we can talk about that incident. Also, maybe what they can do, the Eritreans, to just have, probably now they are exposing to a lot of new people. They might also interact with politicians, maybe soldiers and stuff like that. So what should they do to educate the Israeli politicians and also the ordinary citizens to know about their situation and how helpful citizens they are? So let's play this one, and then you can give your advice as well, okay?
תגיד, חבר'ה, תודה. סוכת גם כאזרח, אני אזרח ראשון שסוכה ממש אזרח בארץ. יש איזה סרט שעשו של המעלית הכדורגל שזה עכשיו, זה לא משנה.
So anyway, this is the place where they were volunteering. So they met with, I think he's a Knesset member, he's a parliament member. And so what can you say about this incident? And also what can they do to educate if any such interaction happens with politicians, and also the interaction they were doing right now with ordinary Israeli citizens, so that they can understand more about their situation?
Well, I don't know who Belhana is talking to. Who's this gentleman in the black T-shirt? I don't know who he is. I don't know if you have any information about him. But of course, Belhana tried to talk before to the parliament. He's a parliament member, as you mentioned. His name is Avigdor Lieberman. And as you saw, he was completely impatient. He couldn't care less. Avigdor Lieberman is a right-wing parliament member. He lives in the occupied territories. He is not a nice person, so he shouldn't be insulted. He doesn't care much about. He basically is from the Soviet Union. He came from the Soviet Union, and he's not a nice person. So the interaction with him is completely useless. I'm sorry to say. I mean, it's a good photo opportunity, but the guy doesn't care about anything. So I don't know whether he's the right person to speak to. It's very difficult because, as I said, the Israeli public is not. It doesn't have the capability to give attention to anything else other than itself. Not only now, especially Israel isn't an easy place to live in. So it's very difficult for people to take in consideration other people's problems. In my view, what the community is doing now is the best. I told some of them I would prefer, for the fact that you have blue shirts, I would like the shirts to say I'm a refugee.
Yeah, I think it makes sense.
I would like, people won't think that they're involved to deliveries or they work in an organization, because people, and in our eyes, if I wasn't involved, okay, you're wearing blue shirts, you work in an organization, and even I was with them in this place that they were in the place that they were volunteering, and Israelis came up to them, and I was talking to them for a few minutes, and Israelis came up to them and said, "Can you take out this for the car?" They thought they were like hired work. Okay, that's the way they treated them.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like telling the Israelis, they're volunteers just like you. Take your stuff in. I was like, no, I didn't say that, but I said they're voluntary. They're volunteering here just like as you are.
Mm-hmm.
So I would like them to have the shirt saying, "I'm a refugee."
Yeah.
That would be, in my eyes, much better.
Yeah, I think so.
It wouldn't need an explanation. I'm a refugee. I wear a blue shirt because just say just have the Israeli public know you are refugees. That's it. That would be very helpful. I think, really, seriously, I think what they're doing now is the best that they can. It really catches people's attention, and as I said, it gives people look upon it very positively. This is very good. The fact of, we're dealing with governments that do not want to accept the community here at all. But over the years, the Israeli public, as we mentioned, it is coming to know the community, is coming to respect the community. Okay, because when you work in a place and people treat you respectfully. The fact that they are working in different places and people see them. You know what would be wonderful? Okay, you know what would be amazing? If they not only would they volunteer with these shirts, they would go to work with these shirts. Okay. And they would work at the kitchens in these shirts. They would work everywhere with these shirts. People would have to address the fact that these are refugees, preparing their foods, serving them, cleaning the streets. That would be amazing. That would be a quiet sort of message to the Israeli society. We are refugees and you're not recognizing us as such.
Yeah, and then productive part of the society as well. So
very productive. I think I also mentioned that, Dizengoff is a main street in Israel, in Tel Aviv. And I always suggest to people that are talking about the refugees to stroll down the street in the early hours of the morning and the late hours of the night and see for their eyes who is opening these businesses and who is closing these businesses. And I always tell people that owners of restaurants, shops, whatever, tell me, I don't trust my family as much as I trust, they say, my worker, but people that work with the community, not work as a volunteer or work with them physically, speak about them positively. These are very hardworking people. You can trust them. Really, there's a net of supermarkets, not a supermarket, it's a mini market that it's called Super Yuda, okay? And he has like maybe 3 or 4 or 5 stores in Tel Aviv. He told me many times, the people that I put in charge are the Eritrean community. I prefer somebody from the Eritrean community to be in charge of the store, not only work. And a lot of Israelis are telling me, yeah, now we see them in the cashiers. I mean, it's like, wow, they're being trusted with money. Of course they're being trusted. These are very straight, honest, hardworking people. And I wish we would all know that, but it's very hard to convince people. And the other thing is, what we forget is this is a very small community. In a state of Israel, they're hardly anything. What do we have? We have over 18,000 people, 18,000 people Eritreans, and we have Sudanese also. But you're talking about a state of 9-10 million. You hardly see them. They just suffer from a very bad reputation because of a lot of people that are invested in claiming them as claiming that they're violent, they're involved in violence and drugs and whatever. So it's very difficult to convince people. It's also, they're concentrated in parts of the city that are very, I have an Ethiopian friend, okay, an amazing friend, a Jewish Ethiopian friend. He's running for the municipality, that's how you say it?
Yeah, the municipal, yeah.
In Netanya, Okay.
Mm-hmm.
He was a football player, and he's a lawyer now, and I really love him. He's amazing. He once took his football group down to Cholot to play football with the community in the prison in Cholot. And he called me after the events of the 2nd of September, and he said, "Listen, Sigal, first of all, please explain to me what's going on. I have to understand this issue because I'm going to be interviewed." He said, "I'm running, and I don't want to say anything racist about this community, and I need to understand." So can you imagine? We're talking about an Ethiopian Jewish person saying, "I don't understand what's going on." And then he said to me, "Listen, I have to tell you, I have to be honest with you, okay? They're living in Netanya in conditions that I have, he said, I'm not a rich person, and people are living in conditions that I cannot explain to you." And I said, "I know. I know how they're living." And he said, just viewing the way that the situation where they live is immediately, your thoughts are immediately, these people have to be involved with violence because this is how, it's like the favelot in Brazil. And also there were a few, and you know how it is with the public and the media, they're using one or two violent actions and they're repeating them. And there was a very difficult, horrific story of an Eritrean that raped and brutalized an Israeli woman. And for many years now, it happened like 5 years ago, and she's still in coma. And he beat her up really badly. And they're repeating this situation. It was in Netanya. And he told me, even he said, you know the situation with her name is Olympia. You know what happened with Olympia. And I said, yeah, but you know that this is one case. There's not many cases. He says, but it's very difficult for me to convince the public that they're not involved in violence. So the fact that they're living in these bad neighborhoods and they're living in such conditions, a lot of Israelis are telling me, you walk around the streets in the south of the city, and I always say, yes, I do, and I don't feel threatened. And they say, yeah, but that is because you know the community. And the truth of the matter is that I do feel threatened. And it's not because only the fact that the community is there. It's because there's a lot of drug dealing in these areas, and a lot of prostitution in these areas, and a lot of gambling in these areas. These areas are horrible neighborhoods. So it would be wonderful if we had an option for the community. And as I said before, the children are growing up in these neighborhoods. And this is not a good thing to grow up in, an area to grow. So it would be wonderful if somehow we could have this community not living in such areas, not living, it's difficult. The neighborhoods that they're living are in the worst neighborhoods in Israel, basically. And it's not their fault, of course. That's another thing, I think maybe a campaign for the fact that, and this is something I'm trying to explain to the Israeli public again and again. It's not their choice to live there. And it's not because they don't have money. Some of them are working very hard and have enough money to rent an apartment, almost not everywhere, but a lot in a neighborhood that I live. But who would rent to them? Who would give them the option to live here? And I'm trying to explain to Israelis that the banks, they don't have a checkbook. They only have a checkbook where it says a foreigner here, okay? Like you're a foreign person. So people living in my neighborhood would think, okay, so this is not somebody I can trust him, that he would pay me rent on a regular base. So this is something that this is also something I'm trying to explain to people. The government is creating this situation purposely. It's putting the Eritrean or the Sudanese or the asylum seeker community in neighborhoods that are run-down neighborhoods in order to create clash with the neighborhoods. There's a reason that they're there. They don't live there because they lived in run-down neighborhoods. And I'm really talking about run-down neighborhoods. You have these neighborhoods sometimes when I walk in the streets, I have to walk in the middle of the street, not on the sideways, because the rats there are so big. So the city is neglecting these neighborhoods from before the refugees arrived, before foreign workers arrived, because foreign workers also live in these areas. These neighborhoods have been neglected always. And when you push in a group that is even weak, what do you expect happening? And the fact that the Eritreans and the Sudanese don't have an option to live in better neighborhoods is a big problem. If we're going back to the issue of Ashkelon, a year ago, one of my South Sudanese very dear friends, a single mother, moved from these neglected neighborhoods in the south of Tel Aviv. She moved to Ashkelon. And she's living in a beautiful new apartment. She's saying, I'm paying less rent than I did in Tel Aviv. And the apartment is completely new, like really. And she says, the neighbors are Israelis, and everybody's treating me with respect. I mean, she says, I'm very happy here. Now she came back to the south of the city because of what's happening in Ashkelon. But in general, I mean, I thought that was a great move. That was a brilliant move. Again, if you have all people moving to a certain place, it would be a problem. But in general, I would like the community. And also, when you move to different cities, like Ashkelon or Ashdod, where the rent is less, the children go there with all the other children, the Israeli children. They're not separated. So I think the community needs to be a little bit braver now and to leave these rundown neighborhoods, even though it's very convenient for them to live in a community, which I understand, okay? You live within your community, especially for the Eritreans and the Sudanese that are very community-oriented people. Mm-hmm. And it's difficult to live in a place where you don't have anybody from your community. But if they would start leave in different countries in Israel that are, the rent isn't that expensive, and they would somehow succeed to convince people to rent these apartments, it would be much better for the community.
Yeah. I mean, they are really in a very tough situation. They are living and everything, but hopefully things will change for better soon, and we will pray for everybody. And I really appreciate for coming out tonight to explain the situation in Israel and also the Eritrean refugee situation. Thank you very much. If there is anything that you want to add at the end, I will give you a chance, but I have finished my questions.
So thank you again for having me. It's a pleasure. I mean, these are sad issues we're talking about, but it's important for me. I would like to use the platform, and I was thinking today to record a message for the Eritrean community, but only in Hebrew and English, because unfortunately I do not speak Tigrinya, which is to my fault. But I really wanted to send out a message of thanks to the community. As I mentioned before, just like every other Israeli, I'm really, really in a very dark place at the moment. I'm really depressed. It's hard for me to mobilize myself in the morning. It's hard for me to get up and go because, as I said, we're in a state of shock. But seeing what the Eritrean community gives me so much hope. It really is a ray of sunlight in these very, very dark times. And I want to thank the community for that. It's me thanking the community. And I know a lot of other Israelis that see them are inspired and are thankful. And it's very touching. So, yes.
Thank you very much. And then we always really appreciate your support to the Eritrean community. And I'm very grateful as well. And then everybody has they are very appreciative of your work that you have been doing for the last 15 years. And then we are also very appreciative, even those who are living outside, because that's our community. And then I'm going to thank you on behalf of everybody for the work that you are doing. So thank you very much. We will keep in touch, and then we will have more whenever is needed. And then also appreciate, this is very late for you right now. So that's also another thing that shows your commitment to help our community. So thank you very much. And then we'll see you another time. Okay.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And then I'm going to wish also, peace for you and for your family, for the Israeli community, for everybody that's affected by this horrible situation right now. So you guys will be in our prayers, and hopefully, yes, this is very important for us. So we're gonna pray for you and for your family as well. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Sigal. Appreciate it.
Bye. Good night.
All right. Good night. Thank you.
عدلي حصاد